We are live. Good afternoon, Crstal. How are you?
I am wonderful. And yourself?
I'm good. I do have to
That-
say that I have a bit of a tickle still, but that's okay. And
Okay, you
other than
got
that,
hit hard, didn't you?
oh yeah, yeah. Well, the cigar didn't help. But anyway,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Um, but I am having some internet issues. The cool thing is, I bought in another light, so I think I'm showing up fully, which is making me pretty happy.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I sent you some notes on the show. Did you get a chance to look at them?
No.
Oh,
Let me see here. Yeah, the can plan sponsors lead. That one? How?
yes.
Okay.
Yep, you got them. You got them. So
Uh-huh.
we're going to talk about that because we started on that a couple of weeks ago, and then I got sick. And we weren't able to finish. And there's some pretty neat information in there.
Okay.
I just wanted to there's a lot of plan sponsors that really want to keep their employees happy, and even if have we have pretty good employment now, but even if we didn't, depending on what side of that line you're on, employers versus employees, running a successful benefit program like a retirement plan is a good thing for your organization. So, in these perilous times, I wanted to help plan sponsors kind of figure out what that looks like. So, we'll talk a little bit about that today. Okay,
Sounds great.
cool, great. So, how about if I read your bio and then we'll jump right in?
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Jevon Thomas with Conversations on the Patio with my friend and colleague, Crstal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant, a CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of The Business Zone with Crstal and Gilbert, another weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and lastly, but not leastly, a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crstal, how you doing?
Hey everyone, good to see you. Happy Monday. For those of you that were our moms, happy belated Mother's Day. I hope you had a wonderful uh, Sunday and weekend.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that because, um, my mom's not around anymore. And I sometimes forget that that's a very, very special day. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump in. Here we go. Like I said, I wanted to talk about ways that plan sponsors can help their employees because many employees, and by virtue of that, many plan sponsors are feeling overwhelmed with the volatility in the market. And while I'm of the mindset that volatility is in general a good thing, and I'll just come right out and say it because most of us as Americans haven't saved enough. And so we probably need to have some risk in our portfolio, even though we don't want it. We probably need to have some risk in your portfolio. So managing that can cause, let's be real, anxiety amongst our leadership. So as a plan sponsor, what do? Right? How do you manage that? How do you help your employees? And so that's what I wanted to spend some time talking about nowadays. I know in your job, you've got lots of folks that are dealing with their second act or their third act sometimes. Do they
Mm-hmm.
ever talk with you about, I don't have time for this market to recover? What are we going to do?
Oh, well, yeah, because their second act is predicated on their retirement money,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't. Most of them are just starting these new businesses, so those new businesses haven't generated enough money to replace what has been lost,
Right.
and so if they've already retired, then that means that a substantial amount of their money has gone now. A second act is now, wait, this is how I'm going to survive. And so
Right.
it makes it challenging as a business owner, a small business owner, an entrepreneur, because you got to build the business in order to drive the revenue. And
Right.
so, and generally not enough to take care of your household or your own financial obligations, and that's what their retirement money is, so that they can now build this business the proper way instead of chasing dollars in order to make sure that they're paying mortgages and stuff. So this is a trying time for my clientele from many angles because the tariffs effect is greatly affecting the small business owner.
Yes, I hear you, and I hear my clients telling me the same thing. And I even hear some of my clients say, if you're going to do a tariff, do the tariff. We just need to be able to plan. I mean, it's not such, nobody wants the tariffs necessarily that I talk with. I guess it really depends on the industry you're in. But the issue that they're really bothered about is the volatility of the tariffs. How do you make a plan when you don't know how much things are going to cost? Right? We have no idea how much things are going to cost. And what do you do right now before those tariffs become effective, or before the larger tariff or the smaller tariff becomes effective? So it's very difficult for business owners that I know in the manufacturing world uh, to make a plan as to what's going to happen, uh, and therefore make projections, and therefore decide, okay, we can buy, or we can price at this amount, or do we need to close the doors because we really don't know what our costs are going to be?
And it's there's politics going on. So you have this. So I've been doing a number of shows with my other platform on tariffs. So the super wealthy, they don't really care about any of this regular all this stuff, where you're gonna eat and where you're gonna live, because they're well set. It's the regular Main Street person that is very concerned. So the playing politics with people's lives is the part that's got people unsettled, because they know it's a political game, and it's feeding in to someone else's ego, which is not taking consideration of their livelihood and how they've planned out their lives. So I think even more so than set the tariffs, stop playing games with the tariffs. That's really what I think it's coming down to.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right in so many ways, but you often are. But I would say that along with what you're saying, I would just say, I believe, I believe that there is an end goal in mind. I can see why someone would use the tariffs to do what they're doing, but I totally agree with you. The way to go about reaching that goal isn't destroying the middle class or wiping out the poor, right? That we don't have to do that. That's why you have smart people around you, is to figure out how to get out of this mess without using that shotgun approach, because that's going to hurt people. Anyone can come up with cut and slash. That's just doesn't take a whole lot of brain power to do that, right? And you're spending more brain power on figuring out how to make the cut and slash legal than you do actually helping people who are being affected. And that's the real tragedy, I think. We have a huge debt. Who wants to kick that down to their kids? Nobody. But when you get right down to it, it's the middle class and the poor that are bearing the brunt of that expense. And if they had enough money to bear the brunt of the expense, they wouldn't be middle class and poor. This is really tough. And when we get back to the subject that I focus on, that is folks with retirement plans who've been putting money in for 30, 40, 50 years, to see that future crumble through no fault of their own,
Mm-hmm.
through, looking at that situation in front of them and thinking, okay, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I took the risk. I invested the money. I cut down on my expenses. I did what I was supposed to do. And now we have the situation where some guy thinks we need to reduce debt someplace, and he's going to take my money away from me. That sucks.
Yeah, that
That
sucks.
really-
Or the person that all of a sudden have had a full career, and they find out that their jobs have been slashed or eliminated, one deliberately, and the other one as a result of tariffs that they're going to have. They're every single day right now. I'm reading that companies are having to lay off their employees and discontinue production on new lines and things of that nature. So that those people, they are kind of out of luck, and then they're playing with the Social Security. So it's like they cut off all the rivers that flow into the ocean.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. They've cut off the rivers that flow into the. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right because all of that is flow. That's very, very. That's actually a very good analogy. Very good analogy. And when you cut off the flow, people get hurt, and that's where people are. They're hurt, and they're confused, and they don't understand why this is happening to them, and they're looking, and they're afraid of what's going to happen in the future. So if you're an employer and you've got that going on in your shop, you've got that going on in your company, what do you do? The first time that we talked about this, you see that segue? I brought that all the way back around.
I know. I saw. Very good. Very talented.
The first thing that you'll want to do, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is number one, communicate. You have to say, look, this is what we know about what's going on. Don't panic. Your monies are still safe. Nobody's taking them away. They're in the market. They're going to go up and down. But that doesn't mean that someone's going to take them away. You're never going to lose your money. And we got a deal. I'm in it with you, right? If you're the employer of an organization, your forecasting is right there beside those folks whose monies have suddenly disappeared, right? So I think having that honesty. So that's number one, is communicate. Number two, reinforce what I always say, the long-term goals. We covered this last week. And for those of us who have a little bit more time, sometimes this could be a buying opportunity. But as we saw, I believe today, the market is swinging quite well. So, it would be one thing if you could say to someone, hey, you've got a month's worth of buying opportunity, and then the market's going to come back. I can't say that. I just really can't. I can't say that. If I could say that, I wouldn't be here talking to you. So we just have to say, let's go long term. And long term means while there's a buying opportunity, we take advantage of it. Right. Yeah. And, lots of people say to me, well, Jevon, this is your job. I mean, why aren't you selling when things are high and buying when things are low? What do you do all day if it's not protect me from downturns and help me take advantage of upturns?
Well, this is kind of a different.
It's a good question.
It's a good question, and I think if you had asked you this question last year at this time in 2024, you'd have a real concrete answer, because you'd be quite confident that the man that's leading the free world,
there you go,
had answers.
Yeah,
but you can't answer because they don't have the answers. So
exactly.
you sitting just like the rest of everybody. We all sitting like, okay, Mom, why are you over there drinking and the children are over here in the house by themselves? What the heck is the problem? Because that's what's happening. The children are the 5-year-olds are taking care of themselves, while the grown folk are over there doing some kind of other antics that they shouldn't be doing. That's why you don't have an answer. Just thought I'd just throw that in there.
Thank you. Well said. Well said. Well said. Well, to answer your question, I'm, thinking long term. That's what I'm doing. Thinking long term. So let's get to
past 2028, huh?
Yeah, the long term. Yeah. So let's talk about, though, the 4 to 5 other things that employers can do, because we are in a bit of a tight spot. I think the first is, as I always say, is you got to get diverse. So know what it is that you are invested in, right? Please don't think that because you're invested in 4 target date funds that you actually have diversity. One of my clients showed me their portfolio and I almost died. They were invested in the 2030, the 2035, the 2040, 2045, and all of those at just 10%, while they were invested in a slew of other mutual funds that invested in stocks and bonds. So I'm going to say right here and now, choose one. Either choose the target date fund. Now, this is just in your retirement plan. Outside your retirement plan, we got different rules. Inside your retirement plan, either choose a target fund and let the professionals do it, or call your advisor, someone like me, and help you design your portfolio. Choose one, maybe two target date funds. Okay? Because target date funds are based on age. They're perfect, but if you have XYZ target date fund that's labeled 2035, the target date fund that's labeled 2040, and the target date fund that's labeled 2030, I hope that makes sense, has the same investments. So you're
Okay.
not getting new investments.
Okay.
You're just getting a different level of stocks versus bonds.
Uh-huh.
So don't invest in multiple target date funds. Now, here's the deal. If you're thinking that you're going to retire in, what is this, 25 now? 28 or 29. You think you're going to retire in 29, and you want to put 50% of your assets in the 25 fund and 50% of your assets in the 2030 fund, I'm okay with that. That's very cool. If you're thinking that, hey, I've got another 10 years to work, I'm not that aggressive a portfolio person, but I'd like to be a little bit more. And you decide, okay, it's 2025 now, I'm going to retire in 2035. I'm going to take a little bit more risk. So I'm just going to take half of my money and I'm going to put half of that money in the 2040 fund and half of that money in 2035 because I know I can take a little more risk. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting any more diversification. You're just moving that risk out just a little bit, right? You have to remember, though, that if you put your money in a 2040 fund, that fund manager thinks that you're in the 2040 fund. So you're going to have to do some adjusting before you retire so that you can get on the same page. But I don't have a problem with people doing one or two retire or target date funds. I think that's a fine idea.
Okay.
Right. And vice versa, if you want to dial that risk down a little bit, perhaps.
But let me ask this question. So let's say, some plan some of the plans have taken. Well, let me ask this question first. I guess part one question is, so I know the stock market has been going up and down, up and down. It did stabilize a little bit last week for a few days. It may have been almost the full week, maybe. But not enough for anybody to recover what they lost in April.
Right.
So if they were planning on retiring and everything, you have a client, this scenario, you have a client that you guys have been working on target, and come December 31st of 2025 was supposed to be their sayonara. I'm off into my wonderful world in life of retirement. What would be one's answer be today?
Well, we've got two or three different answers.
Okay.
The first one you're really not going to like. The first one is, well, we should have been anticipating this 4 years ago and started making plans so that we can transition over the last 4 years into retirement, which would mean that we would move ourselves out of primarily those equity funds into some bond funds so that we could preserve capital. And we've been doing that for the last 4 years. And this is the final year. So that's what you don't want to hear. Okay. That's what we should say, but that's what you don't want to hear. What you do want to hear is, I'm in it now. Now what am I going to do? Right?
Okay.
So I say we've got to have that long-term point of view. And I think it's perfectly fine to ask your employer, to ask me or someone like me, or to get in touch with someone like me who's your retirement plan advisor on your plan and say, what am I supposed to do? And that person should say, we need to keep that long-term point of view. And we need to say, where are you right now? Based on your plan for what you think your life should look like, where are you and what's it look like now? Right? Mm-hmm. Someone told me a long time ago that it's not how much you have, it's how much you're going to get for how much you have. So when you are looking at your pot there and you're thinking, I want to retire in December, Now's
Right.
a great time to call up that advisor and say, what are my options for creating an income right now? Because I don't want to be in this volatility anymore. I want to get out of this market as much as I can. I want to get some products that are going to create some stability in my life. That's one right there.
Mm-hmm.
The other is, can you afford to work a couple more years? Not everyone can, right?
Right.
There's a very old story about a wise old king who sent out messengers and other wise men to find out what the greatest secret in the world was. And finally, some old beggar came up to him and said, "The greatest secret in the world is this too shall change. This too shall pass." And so we have to think about that. This too shall pass. And how do we get there?
Right.
And I think the best way to get there is kind of like we said up at the top, which is you got to think long term. You got to change your mind with regard to this being horrible, as tough as it is, because my goodness, we are looking at our finances disappear, and it doesn't seem like anybody cares when you get right down to it. I feel the pain. I really do. We have, even if there is, I'm just going out on the deep end and say, even if there really is a master plan for all of this stuff, we're putting people through a lot of pain, and it doesn't seem like they care. I mean, between you, me, and the fence post.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. And if it was okay, they've done all that they did, right? For that whole 100 days, I think we're in 120 day of hell right now. But if it was for the 100 days, and then okay, that's all I'm going to do now. I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to just let all that nonsense play out, right? Because I
Yeah.
think I've done enough damage. But no, there are more executive orders that come out worse than the last
There's more
executive
pain to
order.
come. There's more
I,
pain to come.
yeah, because I didn't read two right now that is like whoa.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We
so
gotta.
so
Yeah.
it's a this is a what do you call it, nail biting, knuckle cracking time for
But
everyone.
even though that, if my father were here, he would say, "I survived the '60s. I'll survive this." I don't know how he says that, because I'm like, where I need money.
Well, I can actually see how he said that, because in
I
the
need some money.
'60s we had leaders
Yes,
that
that's true.
were out there that were not afraid, and that was also a time when um, you just couldn't outwardly come out and buy one of our politicians. Now you can just walk up on the street and just say, "Here's your $10 million or your
Yes.
$400 million," and make the
Yeah.
exchange right there in broad daylight. Nobody's saying anything. But when your father
Well,
in the '60s were doing that, that would have been
they
unheard
were
of.
taking care. Well, that's part of the problem. In the '60s, I was a little kid. I'd never worry about this.
You never
Now
had to
it's
worry.
on me. Now it's on
Right,
me.
exactly. And dad and mom, that was their
Yeah.
job. That's what
Yeah.
moms and dads did back there. They made sure that you never worried and didn't have
Exactly.
to bite the eye. All you had, your worry was going to school. That was
Yeah.
your worry.
That was my worry.
And putting
Yeah.
your shoes on the right feet.
And that didn't always happen. It was a big worry. Let me tell you.
Now your worries are entirely different.
Way different. Way different.
Old for the good old days.
I don't know, because I don't think Dad's ready to go back. He's not. He ain't having it. He's not having it. There
Well,
is no going back. He's not
I'm
doing
glad
it.
he recognized that those were not the good days. I wish some other people would recognize those were not the good days.
There you go. There you go. The good old days were not that good.
Yeah,
Okay, so
right.
getting back to our topic, which this was a great segue. What do you do if you're the employer and someone comes to you this? Make sure your retirement plan advisor, the person like me, make sure they have education and resources, and make sure they can actually talk to the participants, because there is a lot of information out there. And I sound drastic, but I shouldn't, because knowing what you have and putting together a plan is the best thing you can do. The worst thing you can do is just sit there and wait till it happens. Please, please don't do that. Make a plan. I always say, once you make a plan, You can always change the plan. But if you don't make a plan, you're just sitting there waiting, you just get smacked around. And we're already getting smacked around enough. We don't need more smacking around. So
Mm.
talk to someone like myself, make a plan, and know what you have. Know what you have. Okay. The other thing is if you're a business leader, if you're a business owner, don't be afraid to show some empathy. Your folks are going to appreciate you getting down there and talking to them mano a mano, person to person, woman to woman, however we do that, man to woman, woman, man, all of that. I
Right,
just
right,
don't want
right.
to get offended. I don't want to need cards and letters. Talk to the people, okay?
Talk to the people.
Make them understand that you're in the fight with them, right?
Mm,
You're not just floating above there.
mm.
And I think most importantly is make sure they understand that they do have help in the form of something like someone like myself who can say, okay, let's just see what's going on here. And I'll be honest with you, Crstal. Many times my answer is, yeah, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that person needs.
Mm-hmm.
Just that understanding, just someone to say, yeah, you're in a tough, but you're in the right spot. Go forth and conquer. I mean, sometimes you can't do anything about it, but knowing that is a good thing. Knowing that you've done the right thing and you're still doing the right thing, even though it doesn't feel good, that's a good thing.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, and I think transparency, information, knowledge, everyone should be, and I know is a basic instinct to run and hide, but this is not that time. I think this is the time that you need to get as much information and knowledge and from reliable sources as you can, because yeah, there's some incredible stuff going on, but we cannot bury our heads. This is not the time for that.
Very true. I don't think we could have said any better than that. This is not the time. And I think, we have to understand that this too will pass. I mean, we will come out of this. Trump will not last forever. Did I say that loud? He won't last forever. So we will come out of this. And when we do, we're going to be stronger for it. We have to get through it. And we can't get through it by sticking our head in the sand. The only way we're really going to get through this is by understanding as much as we can what's going on and what we're supposed to do. No matter what side of the fence you're on, I don't even want to do that. But understanding what you need to do in order to protect yourself, your family, your friends, and to be a responsible person. And you need knowledge to do that.
Mm-hmm. You do. You have the more resources. I think that was one of your number sixes, is all the information, and currently we have access to the internet. I don't know. There was an executive order being played around with that they're gonna taking away high speed internet because it's
Yeah,
woke.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but right at the present moment, use it, download articles, and put them on your computer, and so that you will know. And I know mine. I guess because it's the internet. So because we do this show every week, I get all kinds of email notifications on articles that pop up about retirement. Anything that I'm interested in, it actually pops up. But some of them are really good information in there. Some of them are actually people with real scenarios, life scenarios, going, "Hey, I'm so really far out. I got $200,000. What is that going to look like?" And then folks are responding to that and giving them some information. And then your job is not to take all the information's face value. Now you have to go in and do your deeper dive, and then you need to reach out to your plan advisor, so they can they can tell you what's accurate and true, and then they can tell you, that one's not going to work right there because that's not really feasible. So, but you have to someone reliable, someone that you trust, to get the information that you need, because you can't make decisions if you don't have any clue of what you're supposed to be doing, and if you're operating out of fear and panic.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it better than that. I really like the part about go and talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing. And I wouldn't say that person that is wealthy. I don't think you should do what other people do. And that's why we're having this broadcast, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
people that are trained to help you. They want to help you, and don't think that it's always going to cost you a ton of money, right? If you have a retirement plan advisor, which I hope you do, um,
Mm-hmm.
then call that person up. If you have to sit down with a financial advisor because you don't have one in your life, make it happen. Right? Most financial advisors aren't going to charge you for the consultation to see if they can actually help you or if they can give you a little bit of guidance. They're not that kind of people. So there it is. I don't think I can top what you just said there, Crstal. I think you're spot on. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say what Crstal said, and now I'm going to read your bio. And I'm going to let these folks get them on their business. Here we go. Thank you, everyone. You've been listening to Conversations on the Patio with Jevon Thomas and my friend Crstal Mitchell. She is a business coaching consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, the co-host of The Business Zone with Crstal and Gilbert, another weekly online radio show, which I haven't been on. I just wanted to put that in.
Oh, well, we can have you on.
She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crstal, thank you for that last word. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it. I just think people just need, and that's what we're all saying. Even on my other podcast, we are all saying this is the time to get as much knowledge as possible. Read, because we wouldn't be in this place right now if folks read.
You may be right. I would say, do not stick your head in the sand and just wait.
Yeah.
Being active is a good thing. Reactive with knowledge. Let's
yes, react with knowledge. Yeah,
and it's okay if you got to do that as a group. It's okay if you got to get on Zoom and do the meetup and ask people and figure out stuff and talk to people who know what's going on. Stay away from your neighbor who seems to know everything. Don't do that. Or to your uncle.
Right? Yeah, none of those people that you at this point are banning from Thanksgiving dinner and was not there yesterday for Mother's Day dinner. I'm going to say, go to more LinkedIn. That's a good space to happen to go because they have some good information over there. And there's some groups out there. If you go and look, there everyone has a tribe. And so there are a number of people that are like yourself that are in that position. I think Reddit, which is kind of that message board where people, you just say, hey, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And then a bunch of folks come on Reddit and they tell you, I mean, most of the time it's pretty logical information, but just find your logical source.
Well, there you go. And as much as I need to, or hope to admit and suggest that there is no one just like me, but thank you. If you're one of my clients, you can definitely give me a call. All right, that's enough of that stuff. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you next week on Conversations on the Patio.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone. We'll see you then.